This video is going to explain to you some of the different principles of art. This video goes along with a lot of projects that we're going to do. So if you've already done a project and already seen this video, you can go ahead and skip to the next one. But if you have not, you're going to need to watch this because this has to do with how you're going to be graded on this project. This is kind of an introduction to the principles of art. There are 8 of them, and I'm going to go through them. Now, it has to be explained. Different places and different people have different words and different explanations for these. You can find various videos, you can find various texts and websites that all kind of explain things differently. I'm going to do the best that I can. I'm going to try and stay basic with this and just go quickly through it so that you understand exactly what I'm looking for. The biggest thing, though, is you're going to notice that a lot of the examples I'm showing you, they kind of repeat. Like something that might work for one of the examples I'm using for one of them may also work for another one. So while I'm going through this, just understand that there may be some repetition in the explanations and the visual images that I'm showing you. So the first one that I like to go over is harmony or unity. What that means is the project has sections or as a whole has things that feel as if they belong together, be it a common color, a common theme, or a common design. As you can see, there is a common color. There's also common shapes in like kind of the leafy color or leafy shape they have here. They've got a common color in the lavender purple, and they've also got a repetition of design. So this project has elements in it and principles in it that feel like it belongs together. So this is an example. If I was going to say your project is harmonious or it has a feeling of unity, this is what I'm looking for. Sections or as an entirety, does your project feel like it works all as one? The next example is rhythm, or I like to refer to it as pattern. Okay, pattern or rhythm. What that means is your project has repeating images or a repeating style that goes throughout it. Now, I'm showing you this example because this is a great example of both pattern and rhythm. If you look like up at the top edge, you can see the dots, and then right below it, you've got kind of that flower with the leaf shape, and then you've got the zig. Like each layer has their own different pattern. So pattern being something that repeats over and over. But pattern and rhythm are a little bit the same and a little bit different in the sense that you can have a pattern like a repeating shape, but you can also change the color. It can change from left to right, up and down. It can be gradual changes. It can be big changes. But what I'm looking for there is basically, does your project have images that repeat over and over? So here's another example. The reason I'm showing you this one is I don't want you to always think that rhythm or pattern has to go in a straight line or a diagonal. It can go in circles. It can weave in and out. This one happens to have a snake, and if you look at it, each section has its own repeating pattern. So it goes, it goes hearts, and then like the kind of circles, then dots, then zigzags, then waves, and then it repeats all the way into the center. So you can have patterns that move. They don't have to go the exact same direction. Which brings me to my next one, which is alignment or movement. They're kind of the same thing. Movement and alignment means, does your project, like, does it create lines? Does it, if somebody looks at your project, is their eye going a certain way? This one of the flying ducks, it starts on the left and your eye moves to the right. You want to move with the ducks. So there's a movement created, but there's also an alignment created, because all of these ducks, even though they're scattered all over the place, they are moving in a certain direction. They are looking, they're starting to the left and you're moving to the right. Your eye is going in a straight line up in that diagonal. So this is an example of alignment or movement, okay? Which way are you telling the person to look? If we look at this one, this is another example of, again, you're starting to repeat. You got pattern here along with movement. If you look at it, it starts with the lines really close up to you, and then I'm kind of thinking where if you look in the bottom right hand corner, you can see like that these lines that kind of start in the bottom right, and then they kind of weave into the center and then out around, and it forces your eye to look in a certain way. So how are these lines, how are these images or patterns forcing you to look in a certain direction, in a certain alignment? So that would be an example of movement. The next one is an example of balance. I would also refer back to the first one. If you look at this one, you can see here's balance. Things on the top are the same as on the bottom. Things on the left are the same on the right. But they don't have to be identical to have balance. Let me give you an example here. Here you have perfect opposites. So you've got one on the left, one on the right. They are clearly different. They are clearly colored different, but they do create balance because they take up equal amounts on the page. So when I refer to your project as balance, I mean that the left and the right, top and bottom, but it seems equal, as if you could put this on a visual, like a literal scale. It won't tilt to one side or the other. Now, all of these three have to do with commonalities in your project. How does your project feel like it works together? Now we're going to start looking like, how does your project change? Like, what are the principles in your project that make them different? Now this one is about gradual change. Here you have a tessellation, which is a project that you can do if you want to, if you eventually want to do a tessellation. It is one of the project options. But if you look at this one, you can see that a gradual or a gradation occurs. If you start at the top and then you start moving to the bottom, the image changes gradually. It's not a sudden change. It's not an abrupt change. It's just it starts one way, ends a different way, but that change is very, very slight. So this is an example of gradation or gradual change. Now we're going to look at how your projects can be different. Like, what are the principles of your project that are making things seem a little bit change, or you're having the person's eye look in a specific direction. This one is an example of emphasis. If I had a bunch of dots and all of those dots were blue, and I had 100 blue dots, but I made one of them pink, your eye is going to naturally go to the one that changes. You are creating emphasis on that point. So there are different ways that you can create emphasis. Obviously, the one is color, as you can see also with this other one. Okay, this one, the only thing that's colored are the people. Everything else is not colored. You can also do this in other ways. You can create emphasis with shape, meaning that you've got, again, back to the circles, if I went circle, 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 star, circle, 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 your eye would naturally go to the star. It would look to the thing that is different, to the thing that is changed compared to the other. You can also draw attention to something using proportion. This is an example of proportion. Proportion means how are the size relationships according to other things. Uh, are things larger or smaller than they are compared to each other? As you can see with this one, the shoe is gigantic for the person above them, whereas then the shoe below them is, or the person below them is incredibly small. So this is a change in proportion. You can do this again going back to the circles. If I have a bunch of tiny circles and then I make one giant circle, my eye is going to naturally be drawn to the giant circle by the sheer chance that it just takes up more space. This is your last one, and this is the last principle of art, and this is variety. Variety meaning there is no rhyme or reason. There is no repeating image. You don't see something that happens over and over and over. So, um, there's not much to explain here. Like, is your project different? Is there anything that repeats? If you look at this one, there's almost no repetition in this one. Yeah, plants have same leaves, but even those leaves are a little bit different. So there's no pattern here. There's no movement. Things are very static. So this is an example of just having variety in your project. So you now get a basics of the principles of art. Could you do more than this? Absolutely. But this is just the basics, so that now you can move on to the next project. So go ahead, turn this one off, and go on to the next video.